온라인으로의 전환과 더불어 새로운 기술들의 등장이 미술 시장을 새로운 방향으로 이동시키고 있습니다. 이 세션에서는 미술 시장 안에 다양한 플레이어들을 초청하여 NFT와 메타버스라는 키워드를 가지고 시장의 변화와 전망에 대해 얘기해 보려고 합니다. 먼저 작가이자 컬렉터이며 기획자, 컬럼니스트로 NFT 분야에서 활발하게 활동하고 있는 케닉 셰터의 기조 발제 후 주요 갤러리, 작가, 플랫폼, 관련 기관을 대표하는 국내의 7분을 모시고 짧은 인터뷰를 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 인터뷰 패널은 미팅룸의 이경민 디렉터님께서 맡아주셨습니다.
Hi, my name is Kenny Schachter. I am an artist, I am a professor, and I'm a curator, and I am a writer. I've also sold art from time to time. Over the past year and a half, I've been involved in NFTs in the crypto sector. So I'd like to talk about how NFTs have impacted my life and what it means to me, and what I even define NFTs as in the first instance. Most importantly, I think NFTs, you'll be surprised to hear maybe, I think NFTs are nothing. They're really just a smart contract that piggybacks on an Ethereum cryptocurrency token. What I think is revolutionary and nothing less than that is what I've termed NFTism. I've even trademarked the word. I've even tattooed myself with the word. I'm not kidding. NFTism. For me, NFTism is the community that surrounds a group of artists that primarily, but not necessarily, work in digital or crypto related art. And it relates to the community, which I think is absolutely unprecedented. And what's so incredible to me in the first instance is the fact that NFTs empower artists as never before to take their career matters into their own hands and empower themselves to find a marketplace to sell their own work and not rely on other third parties, intermediaries to do so, especially like galleries that we've had to give the power away to. I've been in the art world for 35 years and I'm self-taught. I studied law, I studied philosophy before that. And I came very late to the art world. And even though I've been a professor at the University of Zurich for well over 10 years, I also teach at the School of Visual Arts in New York University, and I lecture at schools far and wide, from Yale and the Art Institute of Chicago to institutions in Turkey and the UK and all over the world. And if I can summarize how NFTs have affected, pretty much NFTs have affected every part of my life. Not one day has been the same since I got involved last year, and I'll explain why. So in the past, if you wanted to communicate a visual image, you would have to do so by sending a photographic slide that was about this big. You'd have to send it via mail from one party to the other. And that was the only way to convey visually what an artist was doing to another person. So with the advent of social media, that really was a radical transformation in how art was communicated amongst people. And also, most importantly, it blurred geographical boundaries where you didn't have to be in a major art hub like South Korea, like Seoul, or like New York City or London. You were able to be on any continent in the world and communicate with your peers what you're doing art-wise. And that would be, for instance, Instagram. However, even though you were able to, for the first time, without relying on mail and having inside connections within which another party to send it to, you were able to simply post your latest work. And if you nurtured an audience and developed a following, you were able to have access to a wide variety of people and to be discovered. However, you still had to rely on intermediaries, on galleries and others to help to sell your work. So for me, NFTs were the first time in history that not only was there now a way through Instagram and in the case of art involving technology, Twitter, now for the first time with NFTs, which premiered late 2017, early 2018, but have come in earnest into force over the past couple of years. Now artists are able to find a 24/7, a marketplace that's open all day and night in which to actually transact their work, sell their work, and resell their work. Because for the first time in history, artists have the right to royalty on resale of their art, which is baked into the smart contract. So there's been tremendous changes afoot. And I'll go into some of the drawbacks and what people see as some of the negative aspects of NFTs. But mainly what I'm interested in is the positive way that this has absolutely transformed my life. The art world is a very closed system that doesn't really nurture careers or help people in general. It's all about barriers and keeping people out rather than creating opportunities and nurturing, helping people, which is really one of the main things in my practice that I'm interested in. I receive a lot of joy and satisfaction from helping onboard people and create opportunities for people where none existed in the past. An example is that I just went to the Art Institute of Chicago, one of the foremost institutions for fine art in the United States, and I gave studio critiques to graduating students. I would say that the most important lesson in school, in graduate school, is not taught. And that's, what do you do the day after you graduate? What do you do with an art degree in today's art world, in the art market? And the fact is that there are greater tools at the disposal of artists today than ever before. Tools such as utilizing social media to grow an audience, a constituency for what you do. And now, for the first time in history, there's a way for you to actually market your work and sell your work as an artist. So a couple of the complaints about NFTs are that there's no way to live with digital art. There's no way for you to experience digital art and enjoy it in the same manner as a painting or a sculpture. But let me show you around a little bit here. Well, everything in this room, this is my studio space. Other than the paintings, even some of my paintings have been created digitally. So there are photographic reproductions from digital files. This is a sculpture, Selfie Man, that I first created. Can you see it? This was a sculpture that, again, was created digitally and then fabricated from a digital file. Since I'm not much of a painter, in fact, there's not much I could do, period, other than write and speak about art. And you'll have to decide whether I do that, okay? This is a painting that I made, again, digitally, and then had painted in China, of all places. This is a self-portrait as a death mask. And again, it's a 3D scan of my face that I used for a video I made, a music video that was sold in an auction in Tokyo. This was an important part because the art world loves to pigeonhole people. And as a result, I created my own platform to show my art because nobody would give me the opportunity to do so. And what I did was, in my writing on ArtNet, where I've been writing for 20 years, I embedded my own videos and two-dimensional photographic work from my ArtNet articles into my articles. So basically, as the art world would give me no opportunities to show my work because I was a curator, I was a writer, I was a teacher, and I also had to resort to selling art in the shows that I curated because that was really the only way I could make a living. Even more so, I'm not going to let art world people tell me what I can and what I can't do. So once I found about NFTs, I've been making digital videos for literally 30 years, since the early 90s. I would put them into group shows that I curated, and I would put them online in my articles and put them on social media, but I could never make a living from my own art, which was really depressing. And NFTs, for the first time in my life, have afforded me the opportunity to do so, which I'm endlessly grateful and appreciative of this fact. So I found out about NFTs towards the end of 2020, and I immediately put my stuff. I found out about a platform called Nifty Gateway. The competition was mild in relationship to what it is now. I was able to onboard myself onto that platform, and I sold some NFTs for around $4,000, and I was wildly grateful for that opportunity. People complain that you can't see NFTs, that they just exist on your phone or your computer, and that's absurd because everything that I just showed you sprang from a digital file. So I can sell an NFT of an image or a video, and it could be created into a photograph, a painting. Also, that NFTs are bad for the environment. It's mining of Bitcoin that causes the most damage as far as excessive energy consumption is concerned. But that's changing in due course. NFTs are not the prime factor creating an excessive energy destruction. It's the mining of Bitcoin and Ethereum, but already there's other alternatives to Ethereum and Bitcoin like Tezos and other platforms like Polygon that are much less negative or detrimental to the environment. And Ethereum too, which hopefully is just around the corner, would obliterate this concern for once and for all. Also, when's the last time anyone ever calculated how much energy and how much damage to the environment that fine art shipping crates, fine art packing materials, excessive traveling on planes to go to art fairs all over the world when there's so many galleries in various cities that we live in, and most people weren't even taking the time to go to galleries in their own front yard to look at art. Rather, we were all going on planes incessantly before the tragedy of COVID hit, when all of a sudden there went from 350 art fairs a year to literally zero. And that was a great time for people. I don't say it lightly because I'm a long-term sufferer of COVID myself, but it gave everyone a lot of time to sit back and give some serious thought to how we conduct our lives, why, and what we should prioritize in our lives. And for me, it was making art and teaching art and writing about it and communicating and trying to help people as much as I possibly can. So jump forward a little bit. I've written now 12 features on NFTs. All of my writing you could find on my archives, which are online at kennyschachter.art, or you could find them on Google, YouTube, various lectures I've given to try to help people get started with NFTs themselves. It's a very easy process. Many people are intimidated by it. As another aside, it's amazing that Sotheby's and Christie's have taken the lead in creating opportunities and initiatives to market and sell NFTs to the public. They jumped at the opportunity to have something new to sell, create a new market, and they did so with great velocity and speed. But anyway, so the auction houses have taken the lead, and now, better late than never, the galleries are beginning to catch on. And now galleries like Pace, Hauser and Wirth, and other smaller galleries are creating their own platforms to present NFTs by their gallery artists. But back last year, in the beginning of the year, after I had written my first feature on NFTs, I was contacted by a gallery in Germany called Nagel Draxler. And they asked me to how they would go about creating an NFT show in one of their spaces. And I replied, I'm not going to tell you, but I'll do it for you. And it turns out I curated a show called Breadcrumbs, which opened last May when Germany was in the worst of its lockdown with a curfew. I installed this exhibition, which again, contrary to the expectations of most people when they think of NFTs, this was a show that had an installation like you see on my wall in my house, in my studio. It had vinyl coverings of text all over the walls, ceiling, floors. There was hand-painted text, computer digital prints of text, paintings, sculptures, photographs, videos. NFTs are not just limited to looking at art on a telephone. That's a great misconception and absolutely untrue. So anyway, after I installed the show, the dealers who have galleries in Berlin and Cologne and a small space in Munich, the owners of the gallery only showed up just before the opening. And they said to me, we want you to know the only reason you're here is not that we love NFTs so much, but that we were told by another dealer in Berlin that Nagel Draxler would never be able to appreciate technology because they were too old. And let me tell you something first and foremost. I just had a meeting with a great collector who made art earlier on in his life, and he's now going to produce some NFTs. He's 82 years old. This is not a game for children. This is not a game for just digital natives and young people. NFTs are for everybody. NFTs have no rules. NFTs are an equal opportunity, open platform for anyone who wants to get involved. And that's one of the key, most important aspects of NFTs. I released my first NFT when I was 58 years old. And since then, I've sold almost 10,000 NFTs. I do nothing for money in my career. There's not one thing I've ever done that wasn't motivated by love and passion for art. So I hate when people say NFT artists, digital artists, crypto artists. This is art. Art equals art. And that's a very important fundamental aspect to what we're talking about. NFTs are a tool. NFTs are not in and of themselves anything, like I said, other than a smart contract. The art is not even on the blockchain. The art is in a URL that is in the contract that points to an address where the art is stored on the cloud. So breadcrumbs, which is a term employed in crypto, which relates to the fact that everything on the blockchain is knowable, is traceable. When I sat down to dinner at the gallerist's house, they said, the only reason you're here is that another dealer said we would never be able to do this. And I thought, I'll take that, that's fine. I'm not picky or choosy. I'll seize every opportunity I have. And like the great political activist Malcolm X said, by any means necessary, and there's nothing I wouldn't do to live a life in art. And that's what I've done. And now NFTs, for the first time in my life, have afforded me the opportunity, like I said before, to make a living doing what I absolutely adore and love the most. And because my family never took me to galleries or museums, I never knew that art existed as a career in the first instance until I went to Andy Warhol's estate sale in the end of the 80s and found that art was being bought and sold. That was the first instance I ever became aware that you can own art. And it was an epiphany, and not a day of my life has been the same since that point, and not a day of my life has been the same since I discovered NFTs, literally. And so Breadcrumbs was a group show I curated in a gallery in Cologne. The dealers had no great interest in NFTs. In fact, I would say they were cynical about it, like I was when I first heard about Bitcoin. I had zero interest in crypto money until I later discovered that Ethereum and NFTs could have a practical application to my life by way of me creating art and lodging it on the blockchain to sell it. The gallerists were so happy with the show, way beyond their expectations, way beyond my expectations for this experience. And as a result, the show sold very well. And they decided to let me do a small, teeny weeny little installation in the Basel Art Fair in Switzerland in September. And I was given a tiny corner of the gallery, not just for my own work, but to include 5 other artists that had been in my Breadcrumbs show that I curated in Cologne, in Germany. And again, we had this unexpected success of great media attention. It was the first time NFTs have ever appeared in an art fair in history. And it was on television, in the newspapers, and the gallery sold. From there, even more surprisingly, the gallery has now decided to open an NFT gallery in Berlin. The gallery has asked me to inaugurate a new NFT gallery, which possibly could be the very first in Europe, and with an exhibition of my own work in January of 2022. I hope some of you could make it. It's unbelievable. The opportunities have just been pouring in speaking engagements. I've given dozens of lectures, written a dozen articles. I'm in the middle of writing another one now. And it's just one surprise, positive experience after another. Art world is getting more and more about money, more and more monetized, less and less discussions about what we're even doing and why. And NFTs have completely forever changed that. This is not a flash in the pan. This is not something that's coming and going. This is something that is here and is going to stay and is here forever. I can undoubtedly assure you, I've lived decades in the art world and I've never in my life seen anything that comes close to the impact of what NFTs have done. Most recently, I just came back from a trip where I did a photography video NFT show in Athens. From there, I went to give a lecture at the Pompidou Museum in Paris. And a few days after that, I went to Cologne, Germany, again to appear in an art fair orchestrated by Nagel Draxler. And I created an installation with a painting, again, that I had commissioned to be painted in China. It was more conceptual than about the process of painting. And there was a video component and again, like a vinyl installation on the walls. And the entire installation sold to a collector in Munich. And what's even more wondrous, a museum, the ZKM Museum in Karlsruhe, one of the foremost institutions that showcase and collect art relating to technology, but also painting and sculpture. Historically, the museum tried to buy my installation, but they couldn't because it had already been sold. For the first time in my life, I feel I've accepted myself as an artist. It's sad to say, but it's true. And the Hadid firm has created a metaverse space for me. Like I said before, I trademarked the word NFTism to connote the sense of community that derives from people that are involved in this NFT space. So in Art Basel Miami, I'll create a giant LED wall which will feature this new metaverse space with all of the art in the booth will be accessible on the metaverse on a URL during the course of the fair, which expands the audience exponentially throughout this fair, so it could be seen and enjoyed by literally tens of thousands of people in addition to people visiting Art Basel Miami. And really, in conclusion, I can just say that there's a lot of naysayers, a lot of haters, a lot of people that are skeptical, cynical. They just can't open their minds. Art needs an audience. Art is about self-expression and communication, and also the conversation and the dialogue that ensues as a result of being in front of another object created by a human being. In this time of great political and social and economic instability, unrest, unfairness, prejudices, racism is rampant in the world. I just wish more people would focus on the positivity in life, in art, in relating to one another, instead of creating boundaries. There's nothing alienating about social media or computers, telephones, or the like. It's humans that program the algorithms and the parameters of the software. The majority of my in real life relationships have been created and established through social media. Social media is not something that alienates alienates us from one another. On the other hand, it's something that unites us. And that's what this is all about. This is about people doing positive things, contributing positively to society, to helping one another create opportunities in life, to communicating, to expressing, and to coexisting in a peaceful, positive, beneficial way. And for that, I'm most grateful. Thank you so much.
안녕하세요. 2021년 카마 컨퍼런스를 공동 기획한 미팅룸의 이경민입니다. 앞서 보신 발제에서 케니 쉑터는 작가이자 교수, 큐레이터, 비평가로서 관여해온 NFT 관련 활동과 NFT가 작가들에게 열어준 가능성에 대해서 소개했습니다. 지금부터 보게 되실 인터뷰에서는 국내의 NFT 미술시장 분야에서 핵심적으로 활동해온 작가, 갤러리, 마켓플레이스, 기관, 그리고 법률가 등 국내외 전문가들이 참여합니다. 이 전문가들에게 자신의 분야에서 경험하고 바라본 NFT와 관련된 활동의 성과 그리고 계획, 가능성과 문제점, 전망 등을 질문했고 이에 대해 다양한 시각을 공유하는 자리를 인터뷰 형식으로 마련했습니다. 시작하기에 앞서서 패널들을 간단히 소개하겠습니다. 미스터 미상 작가는 일찍이 NFT 마켓플레이스인 슈퍼레어에서 활동을 시작하면서 수억 원대의 작품을 거래하고 NFT의 새로운 가능성을 발견했습니다. 갤러리 중에서는 페이스 갤러리, 퀘닉 갤러리, 아라리오 갤러리가 참여해 주셨는데요. 대표적인 NFT 아트 마켓플레이스인 파운데이션은 작가의 초대를 통해서만 가입할 수 있고 작품을 민팅해서 거래할 수 있는 플랫폼으로 잘 알려져 있습니다. 한편 뉴욕 뉴 뮤지엄 산하 디지털 아트 연구기관이자 플랫폼인 라이솜은 디지털 아트의 창작과 보존을 지원해온 기관입니다. 캐슬린 킴 미국 변호사는 예술법 전문 변호사로 특히 2017년부터 NFT에 관심을 갖고 관련 소식과 법적 쟁점을 국내에 꾸준히 소개해왔습니다. 미스터 미상 작가에게 질문을 드릴 텐데요. 일러스트레이터로서 대기업과 협업하면서 잘 알려졌던 미스터 미상은 NFT 미술 시장에 비교적 일찍 진출하면서 외국에서 먼저 알려졌습니다. NFT 프로젝트를 진행할 때 가장 중요하다고 생각하는 요소가 무엇인지 작가의 목소리를 들어보겠습니다.
저는 외주 작가로서 커리어를 잘 쌓아나가고 있었어요. 10년 정도를 쉬지 않고 일했고 작년 정도부터는 대중에 크게 알려지지는 않았지만 몸값이 상당히 올랐다고 느꼈고요. 그렇지만 불안하기도 하고 허전한 느낌이 사라지지 않았어요. 그거는 기본적으로 의뢰를 기다리는 삶이었으니까요. 10년 뒤에는 어떻게 돼 있을까? 내가 이렇게 열심히 만들고 있는 내 작품들로는 뭘 할 수 있을까? 이런 생각을 하기도 했어요. 외주를 하면서 동시에 꾸준히 모던 라이프 이즈 러비쉬와 그에 연관된 작업들을 쌓아왔는데 그걸로 딱히 뭘 해야겠다는 상상은 못하고 있었어요. 전시를 해볼까? 전시를 하면 뭐하나? 캔버스에 디지털 프린팅을 해서 전시를 해본 적이 있기는 했는데 저는 썩 마음에 들지는 않았었어요. 전시 후에 캔버스들은 전부 찢어서 버렸습니다. 그 다음에 생각했던 게 패트리온이라는 후원 사이트에서 활동하는 거였어요. 바로 그 시점에 NFT라는 걸 접하게 됐어요. 이 디지털 그림들을 전부 돈 받고 팔 수 있게 된 거구나. 그리고 나는 꽤 괜찮은 디지털 아트들을 많이 가지고 있네. 한번 올인해보자 라고 강한 확신을 느꼈어요. 저는 슈퍼레어를 비롯한 각종 플랫폼들의 포트폴리오를 보냈고 회신을 기다리면서 모던 라이프 이즈 러비쉬 연작을 애니메이션으로 리메이크하기 시작했어요. 그때가 아마 비플의 뉴스가 여기저기서 터지던 때였을 거예요. 저는 슈퍼레어 작가 승인을 받고 작품을 민트했어요. 거의 곧바로 오퍼가 들어왔지만 받지 않았어요. 저는 이 시리즈는 대략 몇 장 정도이고 이 모든 것들이 명확하게 이어지는 하나의 이야기임을 강조했어요. 기존의 작품 전체로 올려뒀던 비엔스 페이지도 적극적으로 보여줬고 크립토 복셀즈의 땅을 사서 갤러리를 지어놓고 작품을 걸었어요. 계속 보여줬어요. 인스타그램 프로모션도 적극적으로 이용했어요. 제가 쓸 수 있는 모든 방법을 다 동원해서 작품을 계속 보여주고 다양한 방식으로 설명했어요. 그리고 저는 슈퍼레어에서 모던 라이프 이즈 러비쉬 연작 중 11장을 빠른 속도로 판매하게 됩니다.
작가 선정과 협업과 관련해서 갤러리와 마켓플레이스 관계자분들께 질문을 드렸습니다. NFT와 작가와 작품을 선정할 때 어떤 점에 주목하고 어떤 부분을 지원하는지 궁금합니다.
갤러리는 작가가 하는 다양한 작업 활동, 작품의 홍보 활동, 판매 활동의 파트너이기 때문에 NFT 아트에서도 이거는 정확하게 일치합니다. 조금 더 필요했던 과정이 있었다면 NFT 아트가 무엇인가에 대한 이해를 작가들에게 먼저 제공을 하는 과정이 필요했습니다. 사실 NFT 아트가 상업적 속성이 굉장히 강하죠. 특히 이게 가상화폐하고 연결이 됐기 때문에 기본적으로 작가님들이 이런 부분에 대한 이해가 없으시거나 부정적으로 생각하는 분들도 상당하셨어요. 내가 가지고 있는 작품의 어떤 기본 메시지를 조금 더 다양한 사람들하고 커뮤니케이션 할 수 있는 그런 새로운 방법이 되는 거죠. 그래서 그런 부분들을 작가님들에게 이해시키고 그 부분에 대한 오픈 마인드로 접근하실 수 있는 작가님들을 선택하게 되는데, 작가님이 작품을 제작하기로 결정하시면 NFT 아트로 거래되는 유형의 작품들에 대한 어떤 기본적 형태, 어떤 시각적 감수성, 그런 부분들을 좀 같이 공유하기도 하고요. 기본적으로 작품의 메시지와 그 모든 그 시각적 감수성은 작가님들이 담당해야 될 몫입니다. 그러다 보니까 시각적 감수성을 충분히 가지고 있으신 그런 작가님들을 선택하게 되는 거고요. 그 작품에 대한 설명, 작가에 대한 설명, 그런 부분들에 대해서 갤러리에서 지원을 하고요. 판매가 되고 그리고 그 가상화폐가 들어오고 그런 정상 과정까지 갤러리가 모두 역할을 했습니다.
So we have to differentiate here in the two different activities. So on one side there's König Galerie, which also realizes NFT projects for the represented artists, such as Katharina Grosse, Erwin Wurm or Refik Anadol. So where we help the artist release NFTs, or in the case of Refik, for example, to make a combination of an NFT and a print production. And it varies. For Refik, for example, he knows better than anybody else what to do. For Katharina Grosse, we found the developers who realized the project for her. It's a very advanced project because it's interactive and you can control the NFTs with your fingertips. With Erwin Wurm, we also found the animator and realized the project for him based on his idea. And on Misa, it's a complete different company. Misa is a marketplace which is selling NFTs next to paintings and sculptures. And soon to come is also based on NFTs. Actually, the technology is fractionalized ownership.
So Pace has collaborated with Urs Fischer to create his first NFT series, Chaos, the digital sculpture, and plan to open an upcoming platform for NFTs by gallery artists. So I would say that the inspiration behind us venturing forward into blockchain and specifically into collaborative efforts for NFTs naturally just came about in terms of our artists just being very, very interested in the technology. Pace has always been a gallery that's heavily been tech focused, but in tech forward, but also truly has consistently always put our artists first. For Pace, anything that we're venturing forward into, it's particularly with our artist benefit in mind. Using NFTs as a means to create essentially another medium that artists can explore. They can sort of expand beyond the white cube and really challenge themselves in terms of their practice. I should also note that specifically in terms of our venture into NFTs, we have a two-pronged approach. So the first approach is specifically supporting artists and their NFT projects through our platform, Pace Verso, which just recently launched on November 22nd. And then the second approach is supporting artist NFT projects external to the program, but in some form of collaboration, whether that be through marketing or advising in some format in terms of content. But we really just want to make sure that in any capacity, we're fully supporting our artists. So we're really just looking at it as an extension of an artist medium, just using, Web3 technology.
라이좀은 넷아트와 웹아트를 아카이빙하고 보존해온 기관으로서 NFT를 바라보는 시장의 시각과 조금 차이가 있을 텐데요. NFT 관련 라이좀의 계획과 방향이 무엇인지 들어보겠습니다.
So one of the first questions that arises for many people who are looking at this field is considering, what are the preservation implications of NFTs in the metaverse? This is an issue that we have some interest in at Rhizome because since 1999 we started the Art Base, which was an archive focusing on digital work. That archive now has more than 2,000 works in it. This is Petra Kortwright's webcam, made in 2007. It was both a video and then also this kind of social process that unfolded within a particular technological platform. I think raises an interesting question about the object boundary. Is this work just a video? Certainly when it was shown at MoMA earlier this year, it was shown just as a video work on screen with a caption explaining the larger social context. When Rhizome presented it a couple years ago as part of our Net Art Anthology project, we actually reconstructed the entire YouTube interface of 2007 in an effort to give a sense of the work being part of a larger technological context. So this idea of the object boundary is relevant to NFTs in the metaverse because NFTs are a very particular kind of digital object. Digital artworks and objects perform their objecthood by bringing together multiple resources, which can include digital files created by an artist, a software environment, a hardware environment, a web-based environment, even a social process. So in the future, is the artwork and the market information which can be retrieved using the NFT might be kind of separate from the preservation of the work itself, more of a sort of social history that brings a different preservation conversation into play.
미술시장에서 1차 시장과 2차 시장의 경계는 점점 무의미해지고 있습니다. 경매 방식으로 과열된 NFT 시장에서 작가와 오랜 기간 협업하는 갤러리의 역할은 여전히 중요한데요. NFT와 메타버스 미술시장에서 갤러리와 마켓플레이스의 역할이 무엇인지 그리고 어떤 프로그램을 계획 중인지 여쭤보겠습니다.
As a collective, as a company, as an institution, we have a responsibility in some form to maintain a certain standard within PACE's programming. We definitely are trying to uphold a high standard for our artists. These are artists that have actualized markets, trying to use NFTs as an extension of another medium for our artists, creating an additional community that supports their work. A lot of the most successful and prominent artists within the NFT world are artists that have been able to build ecosystems and support systems behind their work and behind their practice that really extends into history-making potential. Particularly in terms of my role at the gallery as a director of online sales. And now with our platform, I'm specifically spearheading and guiding projects within the NFT space as well. So thinking of artists like Lucas Sumaris with his XYZ series, Glenn Kino with Salute and Invisible Man, Studio Drift and Don Diablo for Block Universe. I ultimately see this definitely becoming an extension of our programming and definitely having shows in some capacity as we amass more bodies of work from our artists. And I think that my position will play a huge role in terms of curating that.
아라리오 갤러리는 지난 몇 개월 동안 아라리오의 작가님들이 NFT 거래 플랫폼을 통해 가지고 작품을 선보이고 NFT 아트를 시도해보는 것에 어떤 중간자, 매개자의 역할을 해왔습니다. 사실은 NFT 아트를 거래하는 플랫폼들은 아주 기본적인 속성상 아티스트와 그리고 구매자를 직접 연계하는 그런 플랫폼이라는 측면이 있어요. 그러면 여기에서 과연 갤러리의 역할은 무엇인가? 이런 질문이 나올 수밖에 없습니다. 근데 여기에서 갤러리의 역할, 매개자로서의 갤러리의 역할이 단순히 딜링을 주선한다라는 개념을 떠나서 다른 영역에서의 갤러리로서의 역할, 작품 제작에 있어서의 파트너, 그리고 프로모션에 있어서의 파트너, 그리고 프레젠테이션에, 인터내셔널 프레젠테이션에 있어서의 파트너, 그런 역할을 모두 함께 하는 갤러리라면 사실 이 NFT 아트 플랫폼, 거래 플랫폼의 등장과 같은 것은 크게 갤러리의 어떤 역할에 대한 근본적 고민에는 별로 영향을 미치지 않는다라고 봅니다. 그리고 앞으로 주변의 변화를 조금 살펴보면서 저희가 꼭 해야만 하는 부분, 그리고 시도해 볼 수 있는 부분, 크게 위험성이 따르지 않으면서 해볼 수 있는 부분들은 좀 적극적으로 해볼 생각이에요. 아라리오가 그동안 개척해온 중국 미술 시장 내에서 NFT 아트하고 관련해서 할 수 있는 역할이 조금 있을 것 같습니다. 중국에서의 그런 네트워크라든지 경험을 살려가지고 중국 NFT 아트 시장에서 한국 작가들을 보여줄 수 있는 그런 시도를 아마 하게 될 것 같습니다.
So I think that the role of the gallery is more important than ever on one side and more irrelevant on the other side. So with König we try to build bridges between the digital and the analog, especially for our represented artists. And with Misang, we try to provide a platform which allows much more artists on all media, if digital, if painting, if sculpture, to be present and to have market access. Because I think originally the role of a gallery was only to provide market access, and that's obsolete now through social media and other channels. That's why we started Misang, to provide more artists with access to a wider global market.
Foundation is an NFT marketplace that helps creators release their work onto the Ethereum blockchain and find support for it. And initially, I selected the first 50 artists who were on the site, and from there decided to create a peer-to-peer invite system. So instead of having one centralizing curatorial decision maker, the way that the community evolved was entirely up to the artists who were participating in it. Artists have very high standards for themselves and for each other. So in my role as head of community, I focus on creating these kinds of relationships and nurturing these relationships within the network. So we have a number of guides and editorial features that we write to help people develop crypto fluency. What we're able to offer is a kind of crypto native approach where anyone who's contributing to Foundation knows that because we are coming with these values, we can really identify with their interests in transparency and openness and access.
이번에는 시장 주체가 아닌 기관의 이야기를 들어봅니다. 첫 번째 NFT 작품으로 평가되는 케빈 맥코이의 퀀텀은 라이좀의 프로그램인 7on7을 통해서 2014년 탄생했습니다. NFT와 메타버스와 관련해서 라이좀의 역할에 대해서 어떻게 생각하시는지 궁금합니다.
So there's already a decentralization of authority in a structural way. Whether that plays out in terms of governance or economic power is another matter, but there is already a kind of shifting dynamic there. We were the host of a conference in 2014 where we put artist Kevin McCoy and technologist Anil Dash into conversation, asking them to make something new as part of an art and tech collaboration. They actually created a platform or a prototype of a platform that allowed Kevin to mint the first art NFT that can be found on, or that existed on a blockchain, on Namecoin at that point. So Rhizome had a role in the minting of the work that's often described as the first NFT. People are coming into the blockchain and forming cooperatives and collectives. They're running into many of the problems that institutions have often surfaced as well. So thinking of NFTs in the metaverse as a place that's entirely new and free from institutional involvement, I think is showing its limits in various ways right now. Rhizome, working with Caddis, convened a conference on this topic very recently called Speculative Values. And through a day of conversations with developers and artists and people that are engaged in this topic, it became pretty clear that being an institution is very difficult to adapt to these changing times and to serve one's community and public in an effective way. And I think cryptocurrency experiments really need to think about traditional models of governance, of creating and generating cultural value, and knowledge and of serving a public and of thinking about inclusivity and access and these kinds of conversations that institutions have not necessarily succeeded at but have certainly surfaced as important issues.
이번에는 컬렉터에 대한 질문입니다. NFT로 민팅한 작품을 구매하는 컬렉터들은 기존 컬렉터들과 분명히 차이점이나 또 새로운 지점이 있을 텐데요. 갤러리들은 NFT 작품의 주요 컬렉터층을 어떻게 설정하고 또 지속 가능한 시장 형성을 위해서 어떤 계획을 세우고 있을까요?
As our goal is to bring the analog into the digital and the digital into the analog on the artist side, we see the same on the other aisle with collectors. So we can't generalize. We see collectors from all disciplines, crypto people buying physical art collectors buying crypto art. So it pays exactly off as we plan. So it's a complete mix. And I think the great thing is with NFTs, they're so much more fungible, so much easier to trade them. So it's easier for people to access them.
굉장히 새로운 고객들입니다. 무엇보다도 가상화폐를 거래할 수 있는 그것에 대한 어떤 미래 가치를 인정하는 사람들이 들어오는 시장이죠. 두 번째로는 온라인상에서 돌아다니는 가벼운 영상 그리고 밈 그런 새로운 시각 문화에 익숙한 사람들 MZ 세대라는 할 수 있겠죠. 3D 이미지, 디지털 베이스의 작품, 광고, 애니메이션, 게임 그런 쪽에 익숙한 분들이 또한 이쪽에 더 많은 것 같아요. NFT 아트라고 하는 거는 기본적으로 컴퓨터 안에 데이터로 들어있는 작품인데 그거를 꺼내보거나 혹은 그거를 어딘가에 포스팅하거나 그런 거를 할 수 있는 그런 감성을 가질 수 있는 분들이 NFT에 들어오는 거죠.
It's been very, very interesting, especially with the launch of our platform, to see the demographic of individuals that have acquired work from the gallery. We have an even split, really, of collectors that are more so coming directly from the NFT world, crypto investors, crypto whales, but we also have an equal interest specifically within our traditional collector base. Our specific interest is formulating relationships and connecting with individuals natively from the NFT community. But we've been quite lucky that we've been able to reach both sides. I'm really keen to see if that will ever shift or if it'll continue to just expand on both ends.
외국에 비해 아직 국내에서는 NFT 미술 시장의 저변이 확대되지 않았는데요. 작품을 NFT에서 소개하고 판매하는 일련의 과정에서 창작자가 염두에 두고 준비해야 될 점이 무엇인지 여쭤봤습니다.
클릭드롭스 같은 아주 특수한 로컬 플랫폼을 제외하면 국적이나 국가로 나누지 말고 먼저 하신 분들과 후발주자들이라고 나누는 게 맞는 분류인 것 같아요. 한국에 생긴, 앞으로 생길 모든 플랫폼들, 모든 작가분들은 사실 이제 후발주자가 된 거죠. 근데 그렇다고 해서 그게 꼭 나쁘다는 건 아니고요. 예를 들어 한국에서는 클레이튼 생태계 안에서 정말 많은 프로젝트들이 등장하고 그중 성공적으로 규모를 키워내신 사례들도 많아요. 이후에 대기업들이 적극적으로 뛰어들었을 때 시장이 어떻게 변하게 될지 저 개인으로서는 알 수 없어요. 실제로 요즘에 새롭게 등장하는 것들 중에 저도 로직을 잘 이해하지 못하는 것들도 많아요. 그럼에도 불구하고 말씀드리고 싶은 건 멀리 보시라는 거예요. 당장 어떤 작품을 판매하는 게 중요한 게 아니고 작품을 어떤 방향으로 끌고 나가야겠다는 비전을 만드셔야 됩니다. 점을 하나 찍어놓고 거기에 다가가는 과정 안에서 시장의 변화에 따라 이리저리 돌아서 가시는 건 전혀 상관없습니다.
저는 NFT는 기술적 구현에 불과하다고 생각해요. NFT 뒤에는 철학, 가치관, 사상 이런 것을 좀 들여다보면 사실 우리 예술 창작자들이 굉장히 오랜 세월 고민해오던 과제의 해결책을 제시해주고 있거든요. 케빈 맥콜뿐만 아니라 많은 디지털 매체 아티스트들이 이런 고민들을 해결하고자 예술적 시도들을 해왔습니다. 바로 NFT라는 대체 불가능 토큰, 정확하게 예술의 속성과 일치하지요. 그것을 그대로 기록할 수 있는 기술이 나오게 된 거예요. 판매자와 구매자가 직거래할 수 있고 구매 이력이 다 기록되고 많은 것들 증명해 줌으로 인해서 거래가 가능하게 됐는데 역시 중개인이 필요하다는 거죠. 그래서 이 플랫폼들이 어떤 약관을 가지고 판매자와 구매자를 연결해주고 보상 체계는 어떻게 되며 수익 분배는 어떻게 되고 무엇을 거래하는지 명확하게 하는 것이 중요합니다. 그래서 예술 창작자들께서 유의하실 점은 첫째, 저작권자로서 내 권리를 어떻게 행사할 것인가, 권리를 모두 저작권을 모두 양도할 것인가, 아니면 내가 권리 주체로서 주인으로서 가지고 있으면서 이용권을 주고 거기에 대해서 수익을 분배하는 방식으로 갈 것인가, 이것을 명확한 기준을 가지고 계셔야 돼요. 우리는 저작권에 관한 문화 관례가 만들어진 지가 사실 생각보다 길지 않아요. 그렇다 보니까 의도하지 않게 저작권을 뺏겠다 이런 취지가 아니라 그냥 무조건 양도받는 거래 문화가 있었던 것 같아요. NFT를 할 수 있는 유일한 사람은 저작권자 뿐이에요. 저작물을, 자신의 작품을 제일 잘 활용할 수 있는 사람은 예술 창작자 자신이거든요. 그리고 무엇보다 중요한 게 그 계약 과정에서 저작권 통칭 저작권이 있지만 여러 가지 권리의 다발이에요. 하나의 권리가 아니에요. 여러 가지 권리를 세분화해서 양도하거나 세분화해서 이용허락을 할 수 있고, 더불어 기간을 특정할 수 있고 장소를 특정해서 나눠서 분할해서 권리의 양도나 그 권리의 이용허락이 가능합니다. 이런 점들을 알고 계시면서 이것을 잘 활용할 수 있었으면 좋겠어요. NFT와 메타버스 시장이 점점 커지면서 사실 가장 최근에 부각되는 것은 저작권을 포함한 지식재산 관련 분쟁이겠죠. 2년 전부터 런던 서펜타인 갤러리라고 그 기관에 리걸랩이라는 곳이 있어요. 그래서 예술과 법이 만난 지점에 대해서 연구를 진행하고 있거든요. 저도 참여하고 있는데 그래서 첫 번째 리포트가 나왔어요. 우리가 서베이를 하고 분석을 하고 한 결과 많은 예술 창작자들이 협업을 진행하시면서 어떤 계약을 체결하지 않거나 계약을 하더라도 일반 당사자가 제시한 조건을 그대로 수용하거나 이해 없이 일을 시작하신 경우가 많았거든요. 그래서 저희 다음 프로젝트로는 NFT나 메타버스 씬에서 좀 더 편하게 계약을 체결할 수 있는 방법에 대해서 좀 고민하고 있습니다.
그럼에도 불구하고 NFT 아트는 여전히 아직은 혼돈 상태에 있는 것 같아요. 우리가 지금 예술이란 무엇인가, 그리고 가치 있는 예술이란 무엇인가를 논할 때 그 가치 부분에 있어서 다양한 가치를 생각해 볼 수 있죠. 역사적 가치, 미학적 가치, 사회적 가치, 금전적 가치도 그 중에 하나고요. 비플의 작품이 얼마에 판매됐다, 이런 수치적인 측면에서 굉장히 자극적으로 다가왔지만, 사실 이제 굉장히 중요한 거는 그 작품성에 대한 우리가 조금 더 고민과 그런 부분이 필요할 것 같아요. NFT 아트의 등장으로써 예술의 개념이 또 한 번 재정의될 수도 있는 그런 어떤 중요한 시점인 것 같습니다.
한편 작가의 창작 활동과 관련된 NFT의 가능성은 시장적인 측면에 비해서는 간과된 것이 사실입니다. NFT는 완결된 형식의 작업도 있지만 제너레이티브 NFT, 다이내믹 NFT, 프로그래머블 NFT, 그리고 AI NFT 등 이후 소통 가능한 유동적인 디지털 작업의 가능성을 열어주기도 했습니다. 작가의 창작과 작품의 외연 확장 등과 관련된 창작 관점에서 NFT의 가능성을 어떻게 보시는지 궁금합니다.
시장적 측면을 제외하고 보는 것은 불가능하지 않을까요? 말씀하신 제너레이티브, 다이내믹, AI NFT들이 잘 성장하고 있다면 NFT 시장이 존재하기 때문에 가능한 거겠죠? 예를 들어 제가 진행 중인 PFP 프로젝트인 고스트 프로젝트 같은 경우도 PFP라는 문법, PFP 거래가 잘 일어나고 있는 시장이 존재하기 때문에 기획 가능한 프로젝트였고요.
Hello world! I'm Mr. Misang and this is my original PFP project called Ghost Project.
다만 저 같은 경우는 여기에 여러 가지 추가적인 맥락들을 붙인 거죠. 라이브 트래킹 요소, 모던 라이프 이즈 러비쉬 전체 시리즈의 프리퀄이라는 이야기적 요소, 랜덤 텍스트를 선택할 수 있다는 것, 랜덤 텍스트 풀에 트위터 이벤트 참여자분들의 댓글을 넣어서 참여자가 프로젝트의 온체인으로 흔적을 남길 기회를 준다는 요소 등등. 저는 이런 식으로 존재하는 시장을 이용해서 작업을 확장할 수 있었던 것 같아요. NFT 게이트웨이의 마스크 투 워커스도 좋은 예가 될 수 있겠군요. 마스크 투 워커스의 원작은 20여 개의 캐릭터들을 반복 합성해서 구성한 2D 일러스트레이션이었어요. 근데 NFT 게이트웨이에서는 각각의 개별 캐릭터를 카드팩 형태로 판매하고 그거를 가장 먼저 다 모은 사람에게 보상을 주는 식의 설계가 가능하더라고요. 여하튼 이런 방식의 판매가 가능하다는 걸 알게 되니까 개별 인물들에게 간단하게나마 이야기를 붙여주는 게 가능했어요. 간단한 텍스트들이지만 분명 색의 디테일이 더해지게 됐고요. 여기에서 텍스트를 붙여봤던 경험이 고스트 프로젝트에 영향을 주기도 했어요. 그리고 사운드적인 실험도 해볼 수 있었는데 마스크 투 워커스의 모든 인물들은 개별 사운드를 가지고 있어요. 이것들을 모두 조립하면 마스크 투 워커스 1&1의 음악이 완성이 됩니다. 음악적으로 NFT를 풀어나가려고 하시는 분들이 계신다면 약간 참고가 되실 수도 있지 않을까 합니다.
The NFT can also be used as a kind of functioning piece of code on the blockchain. In some cases like this work, Andrew Benson's Grinder number 65. So in this case, the NFT is more akin to a piece of software running on the blockchain. Or David Rudnick's Exodus 2021, which is a poem that's being released in long span time intervals that run according to the Fibonacci sequence. So in this case, the blockchain kind of serves as a clock. That's thinking of the blockchain or the NFT not only as a part of a computational apparatus, but also as part of a live market context. So you can see that the idea of the token isn't quite a fixed entity. In terms of the possibilities and limitations of NFTs in the metaverse, I think one of the big areas of experimentation would be thinking about different ways of kind of linking traditional practices or physical spaces with the metaverse or with tokens. I think that division and distinction between real space and virtual space is something that could be another limitation of the context at the moment. For example, places where you can go to a physical location and prove your presence there and use that to access an online experience, and linking these things together, or efforts to buy real land or real cultural artifacts through blockchain-based crowdfunding projects.
So when we're talking about foundation and how we go about building community, one of the things that's really interesting about NFTs right now is that it's not only about these market dynamics, but it's also fundamentally reshaping the way that we think about the internet. So on the blockchain, you can see all of these contributions and the provenance of these works over time. Nyan Cat is a very delightful video that was uploaded to the internet just over 10 years ago by the creator Chris Torres. And in that time, Nyan Cat has had over 80 million views on YouTube. So by minting that Nyan Cat piece as an NFT, one, it opened up this category of memes. That piece sold for, what was at the time, around $600,000 USD in February. They were able to take ownership of this identity that had kind of gone viral. So you can verify that Chris Torres is the creator of Nyan Cat. You can verify that Edward Snowden minted this NFT and was the one who just split with Freedom of the Press Foundation. All of this is very public and transparent and can be tracked.
NFT와 메타버스의 다양한 가능성에 대해서 잘 들어봤습니다. 반면 해킹과 보안, 저작권, 환경, 그리고 투기, 가상과 현실의 전도 현상 등 NFT와 메타버스의 문제점도 많이 제기되고 있습니다. 각자의 분야에서 가장 고민되는 한계나 개선될 점이 있다면 알려주시기 바랍니다.
인간 세상의 현실 세계에서 가지고 있는 모든 문제들이 메타버스에서 모두 다 똑같이 드러날 테니까 메타버스 세계에서도 현실 세계 마찬가지로 인간이 하는 일이잖아요. 현실 세계에서는 여러 가지 해결 방식이 있단 말이에요. 그런데 메타버스는 시간, 공간, 그 다음에 국경도 없고 이런 제약이 없는 게 장점이면서 동시에 한계이기도 하죠. 여기에 블록체인 기술을 중심으로 한 그 커뮤니티 문화가 있잖아요. 탈중앙화, 익명성 이런 것들 어떻게 그 범죄 행위를 한 사람 또는 어떤 위반을 한 사람, 계약을 위반한 사람 이런 사람들을 어떻게 특정할 것인가, 특정해서 어떻게 이것을 해결할 것인가. 전 세계 법률가들이나 또 입법 행정 전문가들이 계속해서 고민하는 과제인데, 일단 우리는 가상 자산에 대한 정의, 그다음에 메타버스에 대한 합의된 법적 정의도 아직은 없습니다. 그래서 여기 출발점부터 시작해서 차근차근 해결해야 될 과제들이 굉장히 많은 것 같아요.
현재 많은 문제들이 존재하지만 해결될 것들 혹은 최소한 크게 나아질 이슈로 보입니다. 환경 부분은 이더리움을 예로 들면 작업 증명에서 지분 증명으로 성공적으로 넘어간다고 가정했을 때 아주 크게 개선이 되겠죠. 해킹과 보안은 IT의 모든 분야에서 영원히 쌓아나갈 부분일 거고요. 지금 NFT가 서부 개척 시대라고 한다면 이제 서서히 제도권에 들어가면서 여러 가지 안전장치가 생길 거라고 봅니다. 저작권 부분도 빠르게 개선될 거라고 봅니다. 페이크 민터스를 근절하는 쪽이 아니고 창작하는 쪽에서 더 쉽게 안전장치를 마련할 수 있게 되는 방향으로 가지 않을까 해요. A라는 작가가 직접 생산한 NFT가 맞음이라는 정보를 지금보다 훨씬 더 쉽고 자연스럽게 알 수 있게 될 거예요. 그런데 그거는 중앙화된 방식일 것 같고요. 얘기하다 보니까 흥미롭네요. 어도비 포토샵의 NFT 준비 기능 같은 것처럼 디지털 창작물에 작가의 지문을 남기는 행위가 점점 더 보편화될 거라고 보고요. 불법 영화 파일을 근절하는 건 불가능하지만 넷플릭스의 대중화로 굳이 불법 파일을 다운받는 빈도가 줄어들었던 현상이 떠오르기도 하네요. 게임으로 따지면 스팀이 있겠고요. 디테일은 전혀 다르겠지만 그 방향에 대해서 드리는 말씀입니다. 일단은 저는 가상과 현실의 전도를 논할 만큼 지금 기술이 따라왔다고 보지 않고 있고요. 또 전도가 되면 어떻습니까? 새롭고 이해하기 어려운 거를 악마화해왔던 거는 유구히 있었던 일이고요.
Yeah, I truly think one of the limitations of the metaverse as it's being conceptualized right now is the belief that what's most exciting to people is to recreate the world that we have now in digital form. But when you put a 2D image into a metaverse exhibition, so it's skewing the proportions, the pixels are rendered in all kinds of weird ways. So it's actually often a much less comfortable space for showing digital art than just a simple website would be. And I think that the effort to kind of engineer this new way of looking at art in the metaverse is all driven by this assumption that what's needed is this sandbox version of the world we live in today. And I think I would really push back against that assumption, and I do see that as one of the limitations of this emerging field, that more hybrid models will prove to be much more interesting.
2021년 NFT에 대한 관심이 폭발적으로 증가하면서 과열 상태라는 진단도 있고 또 미래 산업을 낙관하는 전망이 나오기도 합니다. NFT와 메타버스는 앞으로 당신의 분야에서 어떠한 역할을 할 것이라고 전망하시는지 이야기해 주시기 바랍니다.
과열인지 아닌지, 모두가 다르게 정의하는 메타버스라는 게 뭔지 저는 여러분과 똑같이 모릅니다. 물론 저는 메타버스에 대해 나름대로 생각하는 개념이 있지만 여기에서 설명드리기는 어려울 것 같고요. 여하튼 몇 년 뒤에 자연스럽게 사라질 단어라는 생각은 합니다. 개념이 사라질 거라는 게 아니라 단어가 사라질 거라는 말씀이에요. 유비쿼터스처럼요. 다만 1년이 조금 안 되는 시간 동안 시장을 관찰하면서 얻은 결론은 NFT라는 개념 자체는 그게 없던 시절로 되돌릴 수 없는 개념이라는 거예요. 가격이 더 오르거나 내리거나 조정이 있을 수 있겠죠. 하지만 올해 초에 많은 분들께서 우려하셨듯 NFT라는 개념 자체가 연기처럼 사라져버릴 수는 없는 거구나 라고 아주 강력하게 느끼고 있습니다.
메타버스를 가상세계라고 생각하시기 쉬운데 사실 가상세계는 메타버스 일종에 불과하고 현실을 초월한 시공간, 모든 것을 포괄하는 그런 큰 개념이라고 볼 수 있어요. 기술적 혁신, 과학기술의 발달, 이 진보가 어떤 도약을 이루면서 그리고 또 우리 인간의 무한한 인문학적 상상력이 같이 만나면서 그리고 각 분야, 인더스트리와 만나면서 지금 굉장히 많은 시도들이 진행되고 있는 것 같아요. 유발 하라리가 설파한 게 있죠. 신이 되고 싶은 인간. 호모 데우스의 꿈이 커져가는 거죠. 재난이나 질병이나 죽음 그리고 어떤 환경적, 자연환경적 그런 제약으로부터 벗어날 수 있는 공간. 그것이 바로 메타버스. 거기서는 뭐든지 실현할 수가 있잖아요. 그 공간에 나는 아프지도 않고 항상 젊고 그리고 심지어는 돌아가신 분, 사랑하는 가족이나 동물을 다시 만날 수도 있단 말이에요. 이제 촉감을 느낄 수 있는 디바이스도 개발되었고, 또 홀로그램도 상당한 진척을 이루었고, 의학을 포함해가지고 모든 전부 다에 걸쳐서 다양하게 펼쳐질 수 있을 것 같아요.
NFT 아트는 기본적으로 말씀드렸던 것처럼 디지털 베이스의 그런 작업들, 작가들에게 새로운 시장의 가능성을 열었다라고 생각합니다. 예를 들어 심내정 작가는 드로잉 베이스의 식인왕국이라는 굉장히 독특한 어떤 그런 주제를 가지고 있는 작업인데 영상 작업을 컬렉션 한다라는 거는 미술관 아니고서는 상당히 힘들었거든요. 세 점의 작품이 오픈한 지 한 10여 분 만에 모두 솔드아웃이 된 거죠. 근데 이런 작업들이 거래될 수 있는 플랫폼이 만들어진 거잖아요. 그리고 그거를 구매할 수 있는 드디어 이제 그것을 어프리시에이트 할 수 있는 어떤 그런 새로운 소비자들이 존재하는데 디지털 아트 그리고 NFT 베이스의 아트는 굉장히 어떤 맞아떨어지는 접점인 거죠. 그 분야가 드디어 새로운 소비자를 찾게 되는 그런 상황이라고 보여집니다. NFT 아트를 거래하는 플랫폼의 등장은 기존의 작가들이 자기 컴퓨터 안에만 들어있었던 그런 작품을 거래하고 그럼으로써 여타 회화 작가라든지 조각 작가처럼 작가들과 같이 드디어 디지털 베이스의 작가들도 작품을 판매를 통해서 생계 유지와 새로운 작업을 할 수 있는 가능성이 생겼다라는 점이 저는 가장 크게 미술 시장에 기여한 점이라고 생각을 합니다.
So I think you only understand what it means to own an NFT if you buy one. So I think it's the best for everybody to just try it out. I think that we're going to see way more possibilities in the utility of NFTs. So, for example, royalties, but also co-ownership and a different shape of engagement, that you use it as a utility token to get into a certain community. So I think that we are really only at the beginning of this, and we will see it. I predict that that there's nobody will be able to avoid it. I think even bus tickets and things like this will be based on NFTs.
The art market is always a bit pessimistic in terms of anything that it's hyper popular or sort of just knocks people off of their toes. And I think that NFTs have been a huge challenger to that, specifically from the artist side as well as from the collector side. I definitely think that in the future, the technology of blockchain and NFTs is specifically going to be heavily rooted in our everyday transactions. It's already sort of started. There will just be more artists that are making work within this as being digitally native, and their work being within their truth forms in a digital sense. If you can create a token that specifically is per the artist, the truest form of an actual work. Why wouldn't that be the way in which the artist chooses to work or display their work or actually deal with their work in some capacity, whether that be through sales or even through exhibiting? There are metaverses where people just display their artworks within rooms or they advertise their pieces. So I definitely think that we're going to move into a completely different realm in terms of our the fine art world's involvement within Web3.
NFTs and crypto are here to stay. They're going to continue to have a strong impact on the art world. We're already starting to see auction houses, galleries, museums, all trying to figure out how they can contribute to this ecosystem and also how they can benefit from this ecosystem. What we're starting to really understand is that it isn't about one platform or one protocol.
The token today is being treated as this sort of speculative entity that opens up entrance into a new market. But a token can be used in lots of other different ways, that it's really just an entry in this computational system of the blockchain. I think that the longevity of blockchain-based projects will be in how that computer is put to use, how its social purpose is reinvented over time, and then how that intersects with the market and the potential to tie that to economic incentives. So the future of NFTs in the metaverse may not look very much like what it looks like right now.
지금까지 인터뷰를 통해서 NFT와 메타버스 관련 미술시장의 다양한 분야에서 활동해온 주요 전문가들의 이야기를 다각도로 들어봤습니다. 모든 작품을 NFT화할 수도 없고 또 그럴 필요도 없습니다. NFT와 메타버스는 앞으로 미술계 전반에 크고 작은 영향을 줄 것입니다. NFT와 메타버스의 한계와 문제점도 분명히 존재합니다. 이와 관련된 데이터와 환경 문제, 그리고 앞으로 준비해야 할 점은 3부에서 집중적으로 다루겠습니다. 참여해주신 여러분께 진심으로 감사드립니다.